Derbyites, we are back once again for the high holy day of the year for us Oscar nerds. It's the Academy Awards. I feel like Gloria Stewart in Titanic. I feel like it's been 84 years since we've gotten to this point. I'm literally just almost dying to get to the Oscars. It's been a very long season, hasn't it? We have two fun-filled, fact-packed hours here on Gold Derby to talk about the Oscars. And to start off, and by the way, we have my fourth favorite Canadian in the background doing all the controls for us today, just producing the hell out of this show for us, Riley Chow. And for the first half an hour, for the first slot, really just the A-team here. I've got Sam Eckmann in New York, Luca Giliberti in Germany, and my favorite Los Angelino, Zachary Laws in LA. Guys, there's so much to talk about, and I thought I would just try something a little different this year, as you know, and we're going to try to focus on a few categories for each slot so that we cover the field. But before we do, I'm pretty sure that we're all predicting Nomadland for Best Picture, right? So I think that seems to be consensus among pretty much most Oscar watchers, but maybe we need to talk about what we could maybe see as an upset in the Best Picture race. And I want to go to you first, Zach, because offline we were talking about we're a bit worried that there could have been a surprise and maybe we should have done a last-minute change. Zach, why don't you talk us through briefly what your thoughts are on Best Picture?
Yeah, I mean, I think that people are underestimating the chances of Trial of the Chicago 7 to pull off an upset victory. Its victories for SAG Ensemble and the Ace Eddie aren't really that surprising, but I do think that they could be viewed as a sort of rallying around this film that has been so discounted since the season started, and Nomadland just started winning everything. Golden Globes, Critics' Choice, PGA, DGA, BAFTA. It's run the gauntlet of all of the major prizes. But then again, so did 1917, and we saw what happened there. Trial of the Chicago 7, I think, speaks to a very specific audience and a very specific kind of Academy membership, which is the 65 and over, the boomer crowd. They were the ones who were probably there at the convention when all of this stuff actually happened and probably remember the trial very vividly. So I could see them sort of going towards this movie. Additionally, I do think there's not necessarily a backlash against Nomadland as a movie. I think people really like it or love it, but I do think that there is a backlash against this Oscar season in general. If you listen to all the people who are the most aggrieved, shall we say, the thing they keep saying is, this crop of movies is just the leftovers. These small indie kind of rough around the edges movies would never get nominated in a quote unquote normal year. And so I could see those people also rallying behind the most traditional nominee in the bunch, which again would be Trial. But I'm not sure if those same people who are so into traditionalism are going to go for a Netflix movie, which we have to remember this is. And even though you'd think that that wouldn't make much of a difference in this year of any year, I think that there are still some people who are going to, especially as theaters are starting to reopen across the country, who are going to feel a little bit protective when it comes to awarding something that was distributed by a streaming service. I also can't tell if those people who are the most upset at this year's Oscar season are actually even voting at all, or if they're just kind of like voting for Nomadland out of spite, or out of just, I don't know what else to do. I've been looking at all the Oscar whispers, the people like Pete Hammond and Ann Thompson, who are the best at calling these upsets because they actually talk to the voters, and they're all going with Nomadland. So that makes me think that maybe that's what they're hearing from these people. So I'm going to go with Nomadland on the basis of I think it might get enough number one votes to pull this out, but do not be shocked if Trial of Chicago 7 actually wins.
Okay, no, I think that's all very valid. And frankly, if any movie is going to upset, I think it's probably Trial. I hope not. But guys, Sam, like you also acknowledge that Nomadland is out front. Do you think any other film has a possible chance of upsetting here?
I don't. It's just been, yes, Trial of the Chicago 7 took the SAG Ensemble trophy, but Nomadland wasn't there in that ensemble category, and it was never going to get nominated in that ensemble category. And I think sometimes those of us who covered this race in this industry, we kind of start to overthink things a little bit. When there seems to be a front runner, it's like we can't accept that there's just a front runner who's going to steamroll. Sometimes there are years where there is one movie that comes in and steamrolls the whole year, and that has been Nomadland from the beginning. Everyone thought, well, this is the placeholder front runner for now, but of course something later on will shake up the race. And we expect the race nowadays to be shaken up that way, but nothing has come along. In all these other years when there is an upset or we hem and haw over which one will win Best Picture, the trophies are spread around in the precursor races quite considerably, and that just hasn't been the case. Every group has been going for Nomadland, and I do agree it's not the typical Best Picture winner. It is not, like, I would say it's my favorite movie of the year on my personal preference. It's not the type of movie that would normally be my favorite movie of the year. It is not really action plot driven. It is sort of a slice of life tale, but it is a very gentle experience that makes the viewer feel good. And that, I think, is the type of feeling that everyone wants after suffering through 2020. And so I don't think I see a way for something to spoil that.
Yeah, Sam, I think you pick up two very good points, two that I happen to agree with. And one is 2020 has affected so many of us, including Oscar voters, they're human beings, in a very profound way. And I think Nomadland speaks to a lot of that. On the other hand, what I've heard from a lot of people who aren't necessarily in the bubble like we are, say that Nomadland, nothing happens in it. What's the point? I finished it and thought it was lovely, but not necessarily the best film of the year. So, Luca, given that our prediction center closes at 4:45 p.m. Pacific, so everyone still has time to change it from Nomadland if you want, what argument would you make, your best argument that Nomadland is in trouble?
I think everyone's pretty much summed up why it could be in trouble. It just isn't your typical Best Picture winner. As we said, it's a very slow movie. It's a very quiet movie. A lot of people have complained about it not having a plot. Of course, not everyone agrees with that. I don't, but I know a lot of people that just don't find this movie as appealing as, for example, Film Twitter or the critics do, or many of these other groups. But it's so difficult for me to make an argument against it. I think Zach pretty much summed up why there could be a spoiler in the Trial of the Chicago 7. I think for the longest time, I also thought Minari could be a spoiler. It's this beautiful family story with so much heart, which would have made sense on a ranked ballot. I think it could have done very well there, but the fact that it lost the SAG Award, the SAG Ensemble Award, and hasn't really picked up anything outside of supporting actress for Ya Jung-yoon gives me some pause. So I'm so sorry. I can't convince anyone to switch from Nomadland.
All right. Go ahead.
I do want to make one point and say that, Nomadland, yes, you can argue isn't a traditional Best Picture winner. Of course, neither was Parasite or Moonlight or The Shape of Water. Yeah. That's always been a thing in Academy history. Things like Midnight Cowboy, The French Connection, Annie Hall, Kramer versus Kramer, Ordinary People. Like, there's been films that you could argue aren't traditional Best Picture winners all throughout Oscar history that have been sandwiched in between more traditional picks, like, say, Green Book, for instance. So I do want to make a point that even if Nomadland loses and Trial of Chicago 7 wins, I don't want people to become discouraged and think that the Academy is not changing or evolving. I think it's just these things are cyclical, and that's what makes it really hard to predict in the era of the preferential ballot. Because I guess, like, the last film that we've seen really run the gauntlet of all the major precursors and then actually win the Oscar was Argo. I guess you could argue 12 Years a Slave too, but that had some real competition with Gravity in a lot of different places. I Nomadland could be the one to do it just because of how strange this year has been. But I don't want people to think that I feel it's an unconventional winner or something like that. I think that given Academy history, there is no such thing as a conventional winner.
That's right. We do need to move on. We've only got 20 minutes left. We have quite a few categories to cover, but I wanted to really, I wanted actress to be front and center in this slot because it is the category that we have all been debating for months, literally months, and I still have zero idea what's going to happen. I'm personally going with Carey Mulligan. I have been from the get-go. I don't feel very confident about that choice. I think anyone in this category, possibly apart from Vanessa Kirby, God love her, is probably in the running. Excuse me here. So I just think, well, okay, I'd like each of you to tell us pretty briefly, because unfortunately we don't have too much time, guys. I'm going to go to you first, Luca. Who are you picking for Best Actress, and what's your best argument for that choice?
I'm picking Andra Day for Best Actress. She only has the Golden Globe win. She did not get nominated for the Screen Actors Guild Award. She did not get nominated at BAFTA. She was not even on the long list for BAFTA, so those are strikes against her. However, there are some suggestions that the SAG Award nominating committee never got the screeners for this. And I do think that had they received it, I do think she would have been nominated. I know it's very dangerous to include hypotheticals, but I firmly believe she would have been nominated, and had she been nominated, she might have beaten Viola Davis. We really don't know. And my other good argument, the performance. It checks all the boxes. She's playing the tortured singstress. She's doing her own singing there. She has so many showy scenes. She has that final scene, which is absolutely incredible. It's a transformation. It's absolutely everything they love. It'll depend on how voters watch this movie, because it only has one nomination. That will be her hurdle.
Oh, yeah, she's good. All right. What about you, Sam?
I am going with Viola Davis. This is the category that I have switched my prediction more than any other. Viola was my first choice way back when the season started, and I switched out for Carey. I've switched out for Andra Day. I've switched out for a lot of people. But once Viola Davis took the SAG, I switched her right back and haven't taken her out. I just think it is a big performance. It is transformative. She has, she has extra weight. She has the teeth and the hair, and people are suckers for that when they vote for acting awards. They just can't help but go for something with a big physical transformation and a makeup and hair transformation. And she has a lot of really powerful scenes where she gets to sort of tear into someone. The team behind Ma Rainey's Black Bottom has also done a really great job of putting out how historic a win for her would be. She would be the first Black woman to win this category since Halle Berry, which is insane that a Black woman has not taken lead actress since then. And she would also be the most decorated Black actress with 2 wins. So I think the historic nature, people also have that in mind because that's been a conversation point throughout the season. So I just think Andra Day also checks off a few boxes, but she is not as with the in crowd, I think, as Viola Davis, because this is Andra Day's first acting role. So it'll be a nail biter. The only thing I'm confident about is that Vanessa Kirby won't win. I think any of the other 4 stand a really good shot at this, and you can make a great argument either way, but I'm sticking with Viola.
Yeah, I think with Vanessa Kirby, by the way, it just sets her up for the next time or the next time after that when she's nominated. People will remember how great she was in this film, and she'll probably take the Oscar. So she's fine. I agree with you. I think Viola Davis is absolutely the one that I've been most worried about in a good way. If she wins, I'll be thrilled, but I just don't see it happening. What about you, Zach?
I, like everyone else, have gone back and forth on this category. I can make a case for Andra Day winning for all the reasons that Luca listed. I can make a case for Viola Davis for all the reasons that Sam listed. I could even make a case for Frances McDormand. She is in the Best Picture frontrunner. She did win the BAFTA, although there's some weird circumstances around that. So I wouldn't count her out to win a third trophy in this year. However, I'm guessing that all of these women are collecting a lot of votes, especially the three that we mentioned. And I think that whoever wins this prize is going to win with just about, 25, 26% of the vote. And I think it's going to be Carey Mulligan because she is in a Best Picture winner. She's in a Best Picture nominee. All the people on the internet are going to be asking if I looked at the ballot. She's in a film that is the front runner to win screenplay. She's also in a film that inspires great passion, and that performance inspires great passion. I would be really curious to know what would have happened had BAFTA not changed the rules on how they were going to nominate people, and if Promising Young Woman had stayed in the comedy categories at the Golden Globes. I wonder if maybe Carey could have had a better chance of winning those two prizes, and then we wouldn't be scratching our heads so much about who's going to win this. So I mean, honestly, I can see any of those four winning this. It would be remarkable and historical to see either Viola Davis or Andra Day become just the second Black actress in history to win a lead prize. It is really shameful that this is like the first time that that's been a legitimate thing since almost 20 years ago now, and that this is only the second time in history that two Black women have been nominated in this category since the 1970s. So I think that all these there's like a lot of different scenarios that could play out here, and I think ultimately whoever wins this prize is going to be deserving.
Well, I want to pick up on a few things that some of our commenters, all incredibly smart people, and keep commenting because we are watching what you're saying. Firstly, Jason Nolette quite rightly says he can't see Frances winning 3 so soon. I agree, because imagine if she hadn't won for 3 billboards. I think we probably would be having a very different conversation. And then I think it was Team Sukio who said, Ma Rainey, is that really going to be the biggest winner of the night without a Best Picture nomination? That has always been an issue for me, because it could walk away with 3-4 Oscars tonight, which is really such an achievement for a film that couldn't even make it into screenplay, director, or Best Picture. And we've got other commenters like Miguel Marrero who agrees that Frances is not likely going to win. So I think, to me, Andra Day is problematic because she's in a film not nominated for anything else. The film wasn't that well received. It's her first ever performance. I think she's got other chances. To me, this is Viola versus Carey, sorry. And I just think, Carey Mulligan, she's in the Best Picture nominee, and I think that probably puts her slightly ahead. But this category is going to give us severe heartburn for the rest of this night until it's finally announced. Let's move on, because we do have other things to talk about. And I have about 4 or 5 categories that I like to kind of call the heartburn categories. One of those is adapted screenplay. I don't think this is a slam dunk like I thought maybe a month ago, when I pretty much thought, okay, I think Chloe Zhao is going to win this one. I don't think so anymore. I've been predicting The Father, because in my egalitarian mindset, I have the view that I like to think that most or all Best Picture nominated films are going to get rewarded somewhere. And I just think, unfortunately for The Father, it's going to come up short in most categories except for this one. So I think it's going to win adapted screenplay. I'd love to hear you guys your reasoning for why you're predicting whatever film in this category. I'd like to go to you first, Sam.
I have The Father winning. That's actually one of the more recent switches I've made, because I think there's a lot of love for this movie in the Academy. It speaks to many of the older voters who have gone through caring for a parent with dementia, and it's just unfortunately a scenario that many people are familiar with, and it captures it in a very cinematic way. And it is based on a play, Florian Zeller's play, and it feels much more like an adaptation in that way, whereas many people may not be familiar with, they're like, why would Nomadland even be an adaptation? And Nomadland, which was the front runner, feels it's captured in such an honest way that some of those conversations feel as if they're almost just documentary style. They went out there and, got real life stories because they're dealing with non-actors in many cases. So it is it's very authentic storytelling. And that makes it feel like the writing is not obvious on the screen. So I do feel like there is a bit of a surge as people have discovered the father late in the game, and I think the writing is just, it's a bit more of an obvious screenplay at work and more dialogue heavy. So I think the father, this could be the place where it sneaks in and takes something from Nomadland.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. Zach, what do you think?
I agree with Sam. I've been predicting the father to win here for a while. I've also been predicting it to win Best Actor for Anthony Hopkins, just to put that out there, since I know we're going to skip over that category in this segment. But I think that, The Father is a beloved movie, and it's got to win something. And this seems like the easiest place to reward it. And I think that, voters, knowing that Chloe Zhao is going to win an Oscar tonight for directing, no matter what else happens to Nomadland, you can etch that one in stone. I think that there's going to be some votes for the father here. I think it's between those two because the other three are not Best Picture nominees. And those are, unfortunately, strikes against it. That hasn't happened in the expanded era where a film has been nominated for writing and won without being nominated for Best Picture. So I do think it's between those two.
You don't think that Borat subsequent movie film is a spoiler here? I just have this sense.
It's my number 3. It's in my third place.
Yeah, I just think I'm thinking like that could happen, and also, I know the White Tiger isn't represented anywhere else, and One Night in Miami really underperformed. But I must say they are really wonderful adaptations, and I have heard from a few writers that they really respected the work done by Ramin Bahrani and Ken Powers. So look, Luca, what do you think? The Father, more and more people have started to see that film, and all I hear is gushing for it. Just absolute love for that film. Do you think it's going to win?
I do. I switched to The Father this week. I had Nomadland for the longest time, but and all the reasons have already been mentioned. The Father got so many nominations across the board, and the love is going to have to materialize somewhere. I do think it can happen in actor as well, but The Father also won the BAFTA for best adapted screenplay. That's also very important. And as Zach and Sam already mentioned, it's a true adaptation, and I think this would be the perfect place to reward the movie. Plus, as I had mentioned earlier, a lot of people still think Nomadland has no plot, and a lot of people think the scenes are improvised. And it's just not, again, I'm going to use the word typical, it's just not your typical screenplay winner. So I was very surprised to see Nomadland steamroll in this category up until the BAFTAs. So I was just waiting for another movie to get a prize here. And that's why I'm going with The Father ultimately.
So Riley was my fourth favorite Canadian. He's now gone down to fifth. Keep it up, Riley, because I'm going to start get cranky. You know what? Also gives me a bit of heartburn is the original screenplay category. We've got 5 Best Picture nominated films in that race, and most people appear to be predicting Promising Young Woman, but like Sound of Metal, Trial of Chicago 7 with Aaron Sorkin, Minari, that's beloved. And to me, I think the dark horse really is Judas and the Black Messiah, my third favorite film of 2020, which I've seen 3 times and I could literally just watch again and again. I loved it that much. I'm predicting Promising Young Woman. I feel like Emerald Fennell will be rewarded somewhere, and it's here. It's a good consolation prize. They've done that many times. The one that comes to mind always is Jane Campion back in the early 90s for The Piano. So I would like to know now, guys, we're unfortunately we're really running out of time, but I'd just love to hear what you think in original. Let's go with you first, Zach.
I've been predicting Promising Young Woman here from the beginning of the season. I do think that if there is a spoiler, it's probably going to be Trial of Chicago 7. Don't forget that Green Book won the Oscar for screenwriting with only the Golden Globe as a victory. It didn't win the Writers Guild. It didn't win BAFTA. So if Trial is going to have this manifestation of support behind it, I think it could find itself here, a victory here. But I think that so much of the narrative of this year has been about this historic nomination in Best Director for both Emerald Fennell and Chloe Zhao. And I think that they're going to want to reward her with something. Screenplay is often like a consolation prize for somebody who's not going to win director or picture, but who they want to give sort of like, let's say, the silver prize, right, the silver medal, or the bronze, depending on how you look at it from an Olympic standpoint.
Yeah. Well, Daniel Keneally just said one of the most important and interesting comments when he said, "You're right, Rob." So thank you. That's generally how it should work. Sam, what about you?
I also am predicting Promising Young Woman. I think Emerald Fennell is the secret weapon here because she's not going to win picture, she's not going to win director, but she has become a really beloved figure this season, and people are discovering her and going crazy for her. And this is the screenplay is just so unique. It has such a unique, obvious concept to it, which is what gets you this category. And I do think it'll be close. I'm not saying she's a slam dunk. I think Trial is very close. Aaron Sorkin is just the type of extremely wordy, fast-paced dialogue that feels very obvious, that they love checking off here. You know, sometimes it's like we talk about, it has to be the most obvious choice or the most of something to win. And Trial does fit that bill. But I think because Emerald Fennell has become such a force and such a beloved figure on the field this year, she has the edge for me.
Okay, Luca.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much to add. I think this is just going to be Promising Young Woman. I guess Trial is close, but for me, it's not really that close. I think, as already mentioned, it's the cool original concept that they've loved, or that they've rewarded in the last few years, at least. She is definitely, Emerald Fennell is in the vein of Jordan Peele for Get Out, who was also nominated for director. Plus, Promising Young Woman got 5 nominations. It got the most important nomination. So the Academy obviously loves it. And let's not forget that it's the Academy at large voting here. And I just feel like in my predictions, this is also the category where Promising Young Woman gets its love. So I think this is Emerald Fennell for Promising Young Woman. But Trial could obviously spoil for obvious reasons.
Yeah, I think we're going to say that tonight. There's so many categories where this could be wide open. We are all predicting similar things here, and we have to remember that never happens. So expect surprises. That being said, I think in the original score category, without giving it short shrift, I don't think there's a lot to talk about here. I think Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross are winning for Soul. Do you guys agree, generally speaking, that original score is not going to be controversial?
Yeah.
Although it's really interesting that they're also nominated for Mank. You would think that would be some issue here. I don't think it really plays at all.
Tell that to Alexander Desplat, who won his first Oscar for The Grand Budapest Hotel when he was nominated against himself for The Imitation Game.
Very good point.
Yeah, that doesn't factor in there usually.
Yeah, very good point. And then visual effects, that's one of the best categories of the night. I love it. And I just think generally the Academy at large tend to go for the big Christopher Nolan production, which is why most people are expecting Tenet, including most of the people nominated in this category who've told me offline that they expect Tenet to win. What do you guys think? Is there anything here that could possibly spoil here? Just whoever can think of something first, go for it.
I think the Midnight Sky has a lot of popular love in the Academy with, especially a lot of the older Academy members. It is their type of movie. So I think if anything is going to threaten Tenet, it's the Midnight Sky. But when we think of what wins visual effects, it is usually a movie where the effects have some sort of hook. And I think Tenet with, the backwards bullets and all those, the playing with time elements, is the one film here that really has a sort of uniqueness to the visual effects, and that's often what we see win.
Exactly.
If the Midnight Sky had gotten nominations in places like score for Alexander Desplat or production design or sound, I would be inclined to maybe lean towards it. But, Tenet feels more like an obvious winner. I don't think they're overthinking this category. I think that they're just, going for the Christopher Nolan movie.
Yeah. And it won the BAFTA. I think that's very important. And they love invisible effects, of late at least. And it has a production design nomination. I think this is Tenet pretty easily.
Our commenter Abby Zibran is saying that Love and Monsters is having a late surge. It's because people have started to see it. I'd love to see that happen because I am extremely patriotic, and that is an Australian, basically an Aussie film with Aussie visual effects people. But I don't think it's going to happen, guys. We have to say goodbye because we're bringing in a whole bunch of new people. It's been so great having you on this. Thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy Oscar night, and we will see you maybe on the post show. Otherwise, in a few days, Emmy season will start ramping up and we'll be back. So thanks very much, guys. See you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Happy Oscars.
Happy Oscars.
Bye, everybody.
Get out. Get out. Get out, all of you.
Nice to see
Get
you.
out. Get out. Now,
Get out.
I am just beside myself with this lot of people. They're crazy. But they're also wonderful. Tom O'Brien, it's so great to welcome you back to the fold in one of these things. I just, how much I just love everything about you. Charlie Bright, you're the funniest person basically on earth, and my second favorite.
Funny.
And Marcus Dixon, you are so skinny and so young looking, and just the best of the best. So it's great to have you all here. Now, we've got a few really important things to talk about here, but let's just quickly go through picture. I know that you're all basically predicting Nomadland, right? So what we did last time was just kind of work out what film could you argue for that might spoil here. So who would like to go first? I was thinking Marcus because of that bow tie. Do you want to have a quick crack at this and let us know if you really had to go out on a limb, what would you go with and why?
It's so hard because I don't know what's in second place. A lot of people are picking the Trial of the Chicago 7, probably because of the SAG Award, and it won the Ace Eddie for editing. But I don't know. My heart still tells me Minari is in second place. So if there was an upset, I know Minari hasn't won a lot leading up to tonight, but let's face it. I mean, Nomadland has won everything. So not a lot of films have won at other precursor events. So I guess I'm going to say Minari, ?
Okay. All right. That's good. Charlie?
I actually think Marcus is might be onto something with the
Really?
I know. I can't believe I'm saying it either.
Who are you?
About Minari possibly being that number 2, because actually, when you think about it, sort of like how we were pretty sure that Yu Jin-yoon is winning supporting actress, and actually a win of like picture and supporting actress kind of makes sense. As much as anything can make sense in this Oscar season and in this timeline that we live in. I think that. I still think that probably Trial. I would say was probably the second choice here. The thing that always gives me such hesitancy about thinking of that as possibly the upset one is that it's just that it in addition to the thin amount of stuff that it's won, it's also that it just feels like it just feels like that's your more conventional one, and sometimes I feel that can lead you astray if you're looking for an upset. So that's what I'm concerned about there. But I really feel like Nomadland is so out front that it can't, that really whatever might be in second place is kind of negligible.
I kind of wish Minari would actually win, just because I think it'd be so cool to have 2 Korean language films winning in succession. Just think that'd be a really cool thing to have. Tom, what about you?
Well, speaking of Korean films, last year we had that wonderful Parasite win. And I think a lot of folks saw that particular win as a win of passion on the part of Academy voters. And I suspect, and this may just be from film Twitter, which we all know can be a very insular group, that the film that has the most passion this year, the film that people absolutely love, is Promising Young Woman. I think that it's the other film besides Nomadland that has all 5 key elements nominated: editing, directing, writing, acting, picture. Those are the magic 5. And I know that Trial has the ACE Award and the SAG Award, but if that was going to start to get on a roll, I think it would have gotten on a roll before this. Minari is the film that I think that voters might say, oh, I liked that film, and check it off. And that's a definite possibility. But I would say if there is a passion vote at all, I think it might go to Promising Young Woman.
Wow. Okay. So you might be on the Christopher Rosen train. He's the only one of us editors who is going with promising young woman, and I was going to send him a message to ask whether he was high, but look, no disrespect.
No, he's just a massive Black Sabbath fan because he's on the crazy train.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go. Now, guys, can we talk about something that's really given me some serious heartburn? Up until a few days ago, I was fine. I thought
Then take some Tums.
I got to take some Mylanta. You know, remember, I'm 43, so I've got heartburn all the time. Best actor. I thought Chadwick Boseman had this in the bag. Okay. Then I hear that some of you guys got together for a bit of a game night on Zoom, and you played some games and you drank some wine. Suddenly, I'm hearing Chadwick Boseman is now not the favoured candidate in Best Actor, and I'm like, what? What are you doing? Why is this happening? And I know it's because the indie spirits have thrown a spanner in the works. God love them. But I'm now really worried about this. And Marcus, I need to hear from you. What's going on in Best Actor?
Well, listen, I have about an hour left to change back to Chadwick if you guys convince me that I'm wrong. But, Zach Loss has been saying Anthony Hopkins this whole season, even before he won the BAFTA. And I wasn't really considering changing. But then at the Spirits, I mean, look, Chadwick's biggest competition is Anthony Hopkins, who was not eligible at the Spirits. So that should have been Chadwick's. He easily should have won that, and he didn't. And I looked back. I see Charlie shaking his little head. I looked back. It's been 12 years since somebody won an Oscar after losing at the Spirits. And so I guess that means Chadwick is not in contention if you go by that stat. So I switched to Anthony. Am I right or am I wrong?
You're wrong. So wrong. You are so wrong. Here's the thing. The Spirit Awards, I am a Spirit Awards voter, okay? And I know we were talking about how you feel you view Spirit Awards that the Spirit Award is something that Boseman should have won. I argue that it is not, because first of all, I actually feel like most of the people who are voting on this are more well tuned into the Hollywood awards season than maybe like a lot of Oscar voters are. And the idea that they're very sure that Chadwick is winning the Oscar, so there wasn't the feeling to necessarily like it was urgent to give him this. And there was definitely that passion with Sound of Metal, because Sound of Metal picked up 3 awards, including Best First Film and Best Supporting Actor and Best Actor. I just feel like the Spirit Award that people are putting too much stock into the Spirit Awards on this, even though I'm not trying to diss the Spirit Awards. As I said, I'm a voter of the Spirit Awards. I think this, and I voted for Riz in there, and I think the Spirit Awards are great. You can just become a member and vote on them. So I really think that you're reading a bit too much into this Spirit Awards thing, and I still think Chadwick is going to win this.
Okay, so here's the thing, and Tom, I'm going to hear from you in a second. With Chadwick, like I was watching Avengers Endgame with my kids last night, right? And as we were watching it, we were all like watching Chadwick Boseman because he's in that, obviously, and just thinking, oh my God, what a king, what an amazing actor. I feel so bad that he's gone. And I just feel like a lot of Academy voters will feel that way. But I keep hearing from people in the industry and out who are telling me Anthony Hopkins is undeniable. You cannot go past that performance. He's so wonderful. And I'm even hearing that about Riz Ahmed. So I feel it's a 3-way race. It's not Chadwick way out front. And yes, he's passed away. And yes, it's the story about how he was dying during the making of this film. But he's also wonderful in Ma Rainey's. And there's some scenes in that film that brought me to tears, and that was because of him and Viola Davis, who I'm not predicting. So I've got a lot of stuff going on in my head. Tom, are you in the same boat? Are you popping Lexapros like there's no tomorrow?
Oh yeah, this one is really surprising to me because I think we're all sort of presuming, okay, that's safe. We don't have to worry about Best Actor. And then I've been seeing all of these articles online from anonymous Academy voters and revealing their ballot. Now, most of these are kind of, nutty, I think. There was one I actually saw where some guy said he didn't vote for Promising Young Woman because he thought it was too predictable. So, if you believe that. But I've been seeing over and over again voters saying, I know Chadwick's going to win, but I'm going to vote for Hopkins.
Yeah.
And I think part of it too was that Sony Pictures Classics held The Father back until the very last minute. So people weren't seeing it until, and it's been about a month now that people have been practically seeing it. And I think a lot of voters may be going through the same upside down as, God, this guy is really good, but there's Chadwick there, what do I do? And if there is that presumption that Chadwick's going to win anyway, there may be enough Hopkins voters out there to be able to eke out a surprise win.
I put much more stock into that mind track than I do into the Spirit Awards, and I do think that, I do think that Hopkins could possibly upset. I'm not saying if I did say that it was a done deal, then that was a bit of an overstatement. But I think drawing on the Spirit Awards from that is the wrong path to take to get there.
Yeah. I think the Spirit Awards just put a spanner in the works. It made us look at this category and think, okay, it's not completely locked in. You know what, guys? When I got into the Oscars, it was around about when Silence of the Lambs won. I was 13, and I saw that at the cinema. My parents should really have been taken to the department.
I'm going to report your parents to Child Services.
I know, right? And it won the top 5, and I will never get out of my mind Hopkins winning that night, a young, sprightly Hopkins, relatively speaking, holding up that Oscar like, yes, I did this for a supporting performance, but iconic nonetheless. I desperately want to see him win again. I don't even know if we're going to see him on a satellite feed because it's in the middle of the night there in the UK. He's not going to LA as far as I'm aware.
I believe he is. I believe that they've designated Olivia Colman to accept in his place if he wins.
So it's a shame we won't see that payoff if he does win, but I desperately want to see it happen. Unfortunately, we kind of have to move on to other categories, and we're getting a lot of heat about. Sorry, go ahead.
I just want to say I just switched to Chadwick Boseman, so I'm coming after you three.
So malleable.
So I know I was already
if you end up getting it wrong, I think we'll be on even ground, Marcus.
If I had been in a chat with Zach Laws and Daniel Montgomery, they would have been telling me to go with Anthony, but instead I got stuck with you guys, and now you are making me switch.
Okay.
I, for one, enjoyed our time together, so
Yeah.
So
No, this is off the rails, Charlie. This
is getting awkward. It's getting awkward. Okay. We have to move on. So look, there are a few categories that are really giving me a lot of anxiety tonight. There's quite a few. It's a really interesting Oscar race. I'm really interested when it's open. One of those is Best Song. We're getting a lot of heat in the comments. We know, guys, just be patient. We're going to get to every category, okay? But song fascinates me because I'm one of those people that think it's a strong category. A lot of you don't agree. I think 4 out of the 5 are great songs. And so I did a straw poll in the car yesterday. We were driving to some friend's place, and there's 4 of us in the car. We listened to all the songs as I had my eyes open, obviously, because I was driving. And then we all voted. 2 of us voted for Husavik, 1 voted for Speak Now, and 1 voted for, what was it? EOC. So that's completely irrelevant, but I just wanted to bring it up because it's such an open category. When you go into the Oscar portal, when voters go into the Oscar portal to vote, they get credits, Husavik. Okay, so that's also a big factor. If you look over the last many years in the Oscars Best Song category, generally the winner is a song in the movie that's part of the narrative, that's inventively portrayed in the film, not just over credits. So that puts Husavik out front. Not to mention that is a killer song, beautiful song. I can't get it out of my head. But I also really like Speak Now, and I feel like Leslie Odom Jr. is really poised to upset here. The Her song is really wonderful as well. And Diane Warren, what does that wonderful songwriter have to do to win an Academy Award? So there's a lot riding on this. I'm disappointed we're not going to see the songs being performed during the show. They're being performed in the pre-show, which I'm not going to see. So lots to talk about here, guys. Who would like to go first? Just, put your hand up so that we don't all speak over each other and go for gold, because I want to hear what you have to say. Crickets.
well, I have heard that Netflix had to decide between EOC and Husavik to really promote, and I believe their horse is Husavik in this. And that might make sense, because if you haven't heard the song and you haven't seen it in the context of the Eurovision film, you might think it's a comedy song because it's a comedy movie. But you're right, Rob. This is a killer song. And I think that, especially seeing it for Oscar voters in the context on the Academy portal of how it plays in the film, I think could do enough that to raise it over the other 4 credit songs.
Okay, that's very interesting. What also hurts Husavik is it's in a silly, relatively speaking, Netflix film with Will Ferrell. And when Will Ferrell starts singing in the second verse, I kind of slightly cringe a little bit, because it reminds me that it's funny. He's not a great singer, and it kind of ruins it for me a little bit, to be completely honest. So that's problematic as well. It's not serious. What about you, Charlie?
I feel like I'm just going with Husavik. I honestly don't know what to make of this category. And it wasn't until I think it was last week where one of our other editors, Daniel Montgomery, pointed out, and I can't believe I didn't realize this, that there are 3 protest songs in there that have fairly generic protest titles. I'm not saying the songs are generic, I'm saying the titles are. And you got to think to yourself, there are 3 in that similar vein. They got to kind of cancel each other out. And that just leaves you with Husavik and EOC. And I'm just going with the gamble with Husavik. And I really have no rhyme or reason about that one. I wish I did, but I don't.
It's funny you mentioned the cancel each other out angle, because Rob just said that his favorite was Speak Now, but my favorite of those is Fight For You. So
that's mine too.
It's a great song.
There are going to be voters that pick all 3. And, for years we've been hearing that Oscar voters prefer songs that are not in the end credits. They prefer songs like the Coco song that are throughout the movie. And there's only one this year that is that, and that's Husavik.
Yeah, I love that song so much. It just makes me happy. Look, okay, we basically have been zero help to people. So thanks, guys, for being completely useless. Okay, so look, let's move on, because we don't have too much time. Documentary feature is another category that does give me quite a bit of anxiety, because I really honestly believe it is the strongest category of the night, and I just love these films. Maybe 4 of them I love. 1 of them I thought was okay. If I had to choose, I'd be voting for The Mole Agent. That brought me to tears. Wonderful, wonderful work of art. Collective is so wonderful too. A lot of you are predicting Crip. You guys know I can never say that. Crip.
He hasn't been able to say it off air either, so this is actually.
I can never say it. What's wrong with me? Charlie, what do you think's going to happen here? Because I really don't think this is locked in at all.
I don't think it's locked, but I don't think it's locked, but I do think that My Octopus Teacher is a clear favorite, and I am going with that. When you have a combination like PGA and the BAFTA, I think that's kind of undeniable, and that's kind of hard to overlook, especially because this feels like something that is so the buzz for it has been so organic. And it really just feels like it's not because people are telling them, oh, you should like it. It's just people going, no, we genuinely love this movie. And I kind of find it I kind of find it undeniable. But I will say the one that has been that gives me a little bit of unrest is Crip Camp, because it's very much in a mold that I think really works for this category. But I think just because Octopus Teacher came out of nowhere for so many people and caught so many people by surprise, and their genuine enjoyment of it, I think it's going to be a pretty easy win for it.
Tom, do you agree? Because I think Octopus Teacher has really started to move forward in terms of what people believe will win.
I think I absolutely agree with Charlie on this one. It is what I call the pandemic film, because people were home just doodling around Netflix and discovered it on their own. And I had people come to me to have you seen this? Have you seen this? I was like, my octopus teacher, jeez. But I cried at the end. I'll admit that. The PGA and the BAFTA is really hard to argue against. I prefer documentaries like Collective and Crip Camp. Oddly enough, they have a similarity in that both of them start out being about one subject, and the facts and the truth come in and they have to veer into something else. I love documentaries like that. I fear the Crip Camp and Mole Agent have the disadvantage of being in foreign language. It's been almost over 50 years since a documentary in a foreign language has won. So that I think is going to be a disadvantage, especially in such a strong field. So I'm going to go with my octopus teacher and hope for the best.
Okay, now Marcus, I know that you're a real Crip Camp fan. Do you believe it's going to win?
Yes. This may surprise people, but I do have a heart, and I'm going with my heart.
What?
Yeah, I do.
Oh,
and
no.
I think this is the one category where I'm going way against the odds. I think Crip Camp is in third place last I checked. And I just have to pick the one that I think is the best. And I realize I'm probably going to get it wrong, but that's okay. A few years ago, Icarus was my favorite, and Netflix was putting out all of this promotional stuff, and I really thought that Icarus was going to win, but I followed the odds, and I went with, was it Faces Places that the odds had winning?
Yeah,
and I've been kicking myself for 3 years because I knew in my heart that Icarus was going to win. So I'm going with Crip Camp. It's the more, classic type documentary, whereas Octopus Teacher is more like of a narrative film following one guy. Crip Camp kind of sneaks up on you, and about halfway through it changes. It leaves the camp and it enters the real world, and it deals with the struggles of people trying to get equal rights, disabled people.
Yeah.
And you guys credit the end of Octopus, I credit the end of Crip Camp. So
Well, yeah. And they're all very emotional. We haven't even spoken about Time. That won the Gold Derby Award, and it's very popular. They all are very emotional. There's a scene, by the way, in Mole Agent where there are two people connecting, and one of them is an elderly lady who just starts crying, and it's filmed with like this beautiful light. Oh, it's just the most stunning scene in a documentary that I think I've ever seen. Mole Agent starts off quite funny and satirical, and it puts you off a bit, so that could turn off people. Crip Camp is really compelling from the get-go, and then turns into something amazing where you see disabled people being treated like regular people. They have sex lives and they have interests, and it's just so empowering. Mole Agent is about the elderly and loneliness. Collective is about this stunning revelation in Romania that I never knew about. So look, this category is a killer, and so whatever wins tonight, congratulations. But it's so good that we've got these 5 nominees. Let's move on. Animated feature, I think, is pretty much a done deal. I really believe that Soul is going to win this. Wolf Walkers is very beloved, and so is Onward. But do you all think that Soul is really undeniable here? Just nod.
it's not my favorite of these 5, though. My favorite is Onward. But I concede that Soul has won everything, and to go against it at this point, I think a couple people on our charts are going with Wolf Walkers, which would be I guess the second place contender. So if they're right, they can crow about it for years. But I really think it's Soul.
I'm on the same wavelength as Marcus, except my favorite is Shaun the Sheep movie, Farmageddon. So, but I mean, yeah, you're not. I think you're nuts. You're either nuts or stubborn or both if you're not predicting Soul right now.
And Soul also will win score. So you've got two Oscars right there. My heart is with Wolf Walkers. One of these years, Cartoon Saloon from Ireland is going to win an Oscar. They are 4 for 4. They put out 4 features. They've got 4 Oscar nominations from them. They are too good, and their dedication to 2D animation is just so laudable. Soul is really undeniable right now in terms of the odds, but my heart is with Wolf Walkers.
Okay. Now, I've got to turn to Charlie about the shorts, the 3 shorts categories that unfortunately get short shrift. Haha. And look, to be honest, this year I've had a bit of Oscar season malaise and didn't get into the short categories as much as I normally would have. So I'd love to hear from you guys what you think, if you have any knowledge about these categories, and I think Charlie, you do. So tell us what you think.
I'd say the one that's probably the toughest to call is live action short. It's one where, usually over the past couple of years, we think that, I've thought that there's like a formula, or like you can usually see there's like a thread through the past winners, and you can try to find which one of the nominees fits that thread the best. With this crop of live action short contenders, none of them are really fit that. And I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying none of them really fit that. And it's probably my most cynical pick of the night, but I'm predicting Two Distant Strangers. It has Netflix behind it, and even if if there has been a tough, there has been a sort of prevailing thought that its execution misses the mark. I think that didn't prevent Skin from winning 2 years ago, and I think that's and I think it could definitely. I think, and the letter room does have Oscar Isaac in it, which Skin was in a similar situation because it had Jonathan Tucker in it, recognizable people. But I feel like for a lot of people, the letter room might just be a bit boring. Like it doesn't. Like I've heard a lot of people say that not much happens in it, and they're not wrong. It is a very very subtle piece. So I think that's probably the most difficult. I would also, with Doc Short, that one felt difficult, but I will say, what's the one? Concerto as a Conversation feels pretty safe here. It's something about Hollywood. The short even has the footage from the Oscars 2 years ago where Green Book won and Chris Bowers was on stage. His grandfather is incredibly charming. He's a wonderful storyteller, and I think that's probably going to pull out the victory there. Colette was the one that made me the most emotional, and I thought it was the best one of the bunch. And I also really liked A Love Song for Latasha as well. I thought that was a very beautiful one as well. But I think Concerto will probably pick that one up. And in animated, it's going to be If Anything Happens, I Love You.
Okay. Yes, that's the one that I've actually seen. Tom, do you have anything to add to the shorts? Have you seen many of them?
Yes, I have. I'm pretty much on board with Charlie's picks. Two Distant Strangers. Voting was going on during the Derek Chauvin trial, and this is very relevant to that. And I don't know what the outside influences are going to be about that, but it really speaks to the moment. I think that Concerto as a Conversation in documentary short is probably the favorite. I think I'm going to predict, though, A Love Song for Latasha because it's LA-based. Most of the voters are LA-based. It's a story that really hasn't gone away. The killing of Latasha Harlins years ago. And the way they have chosen to depict it in terms of animation and a very upbeat emphasizing her dreams that could have happened, I thought really touched me very much. And it's an alternative to a Concerto as a Conversation. I think I'm gonna predict Latasha on that one. And If Anything Happens, I Love You, I think is going to be the winner in animated short.
Marcus, anything to add to those?
If Anything Happens, I Love You. That's one of the locks of the night. It's the best title in that group, one of the best titles of the year. And it's a really emotional, animated short. If you don't know what it's about, I kind of don't want to tell you. Go watch it, and you'll be surprised about halfway through. Documentary short, I just switched to Concerto based on everything I've been hearing from you guys. Actually, Charlie, you talked about it on Friday, and I think you really convinced me that was winning. And live action short, everything you guys said about Two Distant Strangers, it's very timely to what's going on right now. It's about a black man that dies at the hands of police over and over and over. And I agree with the commenter who said it didn't really stick the ending. The ending wasn't very good, but I don't think that matters. I think it's so important that it probably will win.
It will be interesting to see what the reaction is if Two Distant Strangers wins, because I was on another video call with some other film Twitter people a couple days ago, and one of them described Two Distant Strangers as, this is a direct quote from him, quote, black trauma porn. So, the reaction to this will be quite interesting if it does win.
Okay. We have to say goodbye to you guys, unfortunately. We've run out of
time. I've been in this spot for 30 minutes and I'm not going anywhere.
Enjoy Oscar night. Don't forget, everyone, our prediction center is still open for another 45 minutes. But guys, thanks so much for all of your insights. It's been really great having you on. And we'll see you soon. If not at the post show, then at Emmys after the Oscars.
Bye. Take care, everyone. Have a great evening.
You too. Now I get to bring in like some real heavy hitters. Like, I'm super excited about having Kevin Jacobsen and Denton Davidson and Daniel Montgomery, who is still not with us. Daniel, you are fired. Just kidding. So look, while we're waiting for Daniel to arrive, let's just really make a start, guys, because we just have so much to talk about. And before we get on to Best Picture and then our allotted categories, I noticed, Denton, that you wrote on Facebook earlier that you are going with Andra Day, and because you'd be going with her from the start, and you just you don't want to take her off in case she wins. So I'd like you to talk us through quickly, if you could, what is your reasoning behind the Andra Day prediction? Because I think that's a ballsy one.
Well, there's no strategy in picking front runners from beginning to end that have won everything. So I'm not proud of my Daniel Kaluuya pick, but I think he's going to win like everyone else is, and that's a point for me. But I think it gets tricky when you have these categories that have these cracks in them, and you kind of have to pick and choose your battles and which ones you're going to go for. For me, I'm going with Andra Day because when I saw that performance, I was just knocked out. I just think it was the best performance, and if there was any string of proof that someone else had this in the bag, then I would definitely go with my head. I'm not an emotional prognosticator. I like to go with stats. So if I felt strongly that anyone else had this in the bag, I would have ditched it long ago. Now, where I am at with Andra Day now is, I don't think she's the likeliest candidate. I think it's probably between, Carrie or Viola. But I know that she's got that sliver's chance. And at this point, I'll be more furious with myself if I switch at the last minute and she ends up winning than I will be if I've picked her all along. And if she loses, I can deal with that. I'll be fine. So that's where I'm at is, I think everyone just really at this point is kind of lying to themselves if they're not just predicting the person they really want to win, because you can talk yourself into any one of these five, or maybe.
Yeah. I agree with you. There's Daniel. Hey, Daniel, welcome to the show. I think I think you're right, Denton. I think at this point we're predicting who we want to win, and frankly, I don't think there's going to be a huge I can't say the word plurality in this category. And if you need, say, 21% of the vote to win, Vanessa Kirby could even bloody well do it. So I just think this category is so wide open. So guys, look, we really don't have a lot of. Hopefully, we'll get a chance to talk about actors at the end. But you're all obviously predicting Nomadland, and we've had a few arguments here and there about what could spoil if you had to make an argument. Given that our prediction center is still wide open, and you can go and make your switches if you want to. Kevin, do you think that there's any film here that really has a chance to topple Nomadland in the big one?
No, I mean, I've been having Nomadland even as early as predicting it for the Golden Globe, which I was proud of for sticking with that. But Trial of Chicago 7 is clearly looking like the alternative because of its SAG Ensemble win, its Ace Eddie win. It has that rousing feeling to it that maybe Nomadland strikes a different feeling for some people. But I just think with all of the outside factors that we rely on not being there this time around, like those in-person events and box office even, I think it's just hard for another film to emerge as the clear alternative.
I think
Yeah.
Trial is the probable alternative, but it hasn't won anything else elsewhere,
Yeah.
so it's hard to really make that argument.
That's right. The great Chris Beecham said to me the other day that when you have upsets in a category like Best Picture, there's usually an A choice and a B choice. And I just don't feel we necessarily have that really strong B choice. We've got a few. We've got an A, B, C, D, E, or B, C, D, E, perhaps. Daniel, are you on the same page?
Well, I'm predicting Nomadland, as obviously like everyone else is, but I'm not quite on the same page. Like, I think this is quite a bit closer than a lot of people think. One, because we've all been burned multiple times just the last 5-6 years. La La Land, the film that won even more, I think, than Nomadland did over the course of its season, and it lost Best Picture. The front runners just tend to lose lately. And so I think I don't think you need that necessarily the B choice when it's a preferential ballot. I think if it's a plurality vote, then you need one strong alternative that other people can rally around if they're not into the front runner. On a preferential ballot, things can go any number of different ways based on where they're ranked. So I don't necessarily think you need to have that one strong alternative. I do think it's the closest to Nomadland will probably be Trial of the Chicago 7 because of the SAG ensemble win, because of the Ace Eddie win, because it has that traditionalist vibe that older members of the Academy might gravitate towards, the same kind of voters who voted for Green Book. And it's definitely not gonna. It hasn't elicited passion in film Twitter, but the same thing was true of Green Book, and that kind of threw us for a loop. So I think it could definitely be that. I think Minari has the benefit of being a strong potential consensus choice, kind of like Spotlight or Moonlight, where I think a lot of people love it, and I don't think anyone dislikes it. So it could do really well on a preferential ballot. Promising Young Woman could be divisive, but I could see it having a lot of passion that gets a lot of number one votes, and it's very timely and important, dealing with sexual abuse and sexual assault. So it could even do it, especially because it has the key nominations everywhere. It's the only film besides Nomadland that's up for writing, directing, acting, and editing. So I really do think it could be any of those four. And yeah, I don't think you necessarily need just one alternative choice to win on a preferential ballot.
Okay, so let's move on, because I just saw Maria Bakalova on the red carpet, and she's looking amazing, and I'm really hoping that she'll have an Oscar in her hand. I'm not feeling very confident. So Denton, let's talk about the supporting actor and actress categories. We'll just do it in one hit so we can hear from all of you about these two categories. One of them's really locked in at the moment, and one of them I think is kind of locked in but is slightly more of an open field. Who are you predicting and why, and what can we look out for as a potential upset?
I'm going with YJ from Minari, and I think to me it's she sort of got it locked up in the bag as the season went along. I mean, it was sort of a shock that she won the SAG award to a lot of people, so I don't see how she's going to lose at this point. I think she's just been the most endearing character to watch. As soon as I saw the movie, the first thing I thought is, she's going to win Best Supporting Actress. And I don't think it hurts her that she's been knocking her acceptance speeches out of the park this entire time. I mean, so for me, I don't think it's a very close race there. Supporting actor, again, Kaluuya has just been stomping on everyone on his way to victory. There's not an award he hasn't won. And there's arguments that, Lake Heath could harm him from being from the same film in this category, because that can happen sometimes, but I don't think it hurts him at all. I think, a lot of people thought Lake Heath was lead. Some people thought Kaluuya was lead. But I think Lake Heath is a solid fifth place, and I think it's YJ and Kaluuya all the way.
Okay, that's really interesting. Before the Guild Awards started happening and the Golden Globes, I would have sworn that Bakalova and Racy had this locked up, because the critics really, really went for them in droves, and I was very happy and comfortable with that combination. Although having Kaluuya now kind of, as you say, Denton, stomping on everybody and taking all those prizes fills me with joy, because I just thought he was so wonderful in Get Out, and I just love Judas and the Black Messiah. I'm really hoping that Bacalova can surprise us all too on the actress side, but I do agree with you that these two seem to be out front. Daniel, are you? What do you think? Because I'm reluctant to say these categories are a done deal.
Yeah, I'm always reluctant to say anything is a done deal, but one of the closest things to a done deal at these Oscars is Daniel Kaluuya. And I think Lakeith Stanfield's nomination, not so much, in some cases, like vote splitting is an issue, but if it's Rachel Weisz or Emma Stone in The Favorite, those are very even kind of candidates. But in a case where one of them has been just sweeping everything, I think it's more of a testament to how much voters like the film overall, and that's going to help Kaluuya more than it's going to hurt him. So I think that one's, an upset is always possible, but there's no possible reason to predict one in that category after what we've seen. Supporting actress is, I think, a little closer. Like if you look at our odds at Gold Derby, it's a little weirdly lopsided how almost everyone is going for Ya Jung-yoon now after like just a month ago. Like that race seemed just completely up in the air. So I am a little bit wary that looks like it's solidified more than it actually has. I think there's still a chance for Bakalova, although I think Bakalova really would have needed one of the industry awards like SAG or BAFTA. I think more so, like, none of these other groups have gone for Glenn Close and Hillbilly Elegy because she's won all those other awards before. So if they didn't like the movie, they had no reason to give it to her. But she's still Oscar-less, of course. Everyone remembers The Wife from a couple of years ago where she wore that gold dress and then she didn't win. And so this is the award where she's overdue. So I think the only thing that stops Ya Jung-yoon is probably enough Academy members saying, screw it, just give it to Glenn Close already. But honestly, I think Glenn Close might even be voting for Ya Jung-yoon. Just looking at how happy Glenn Close was, and all of the other nominees were at the SAG Awards when Ya Jung-yoon won, how supportive everyone was. So it feels like after seeing Ya Jung-yoon win all of those, that voting against her feels almost mean. Like I can't imagine like looking at about and like going like, I'm not going to vote for her. It's like, well, why not? She's Ya Jung-yoon. Yeah. It's a wonderful performance. She's like incredibly classy and charming and grateful, and it's just been a delight to see her on this award scene this season.
Yeah, you're right. And every time I see her face, it just fills me with joy to imagine her on the stage with an Oscar in her hand for some reason. And I'm sure I'm not alone there. And she was so wonderful in Minari. It was probably the best thing about that film for me. I am biased, and I do believe what Maria Bakalova was able to do in Borat 2 was pretty stunning. But I acknowledge that's not the kind of film that wins acting prizes, so that's totally cool. And she'll have other chances, whereas Ya Jung-yoon may not necessarily have many more chances in big films that are going to do well at the Oscars. So yeah, I totally agree with you there. I think that's pretty good reasoning from both of you. Kevin, what about you? Is there anything that's giving you pause in the supporting categories?
Not exactly at this point. It's funny Daniel mentioned the gold dress. We actually have multiple gold dresses on the red carpet today with
Carey
Andrew
Mulligan's
Day
wearing
and Carey
gold.
Mulligan.
Yeah, do you just see Andrew Day?
Leslie Odom Jr. is wearing a gold tux.
It's a real trend. I don't know.
Amazing. Go on.
Yeah,
sorry.
I don't know if they got the memo of what happened last time someone wore gold, but maybe they're emulating the Meryl Streep gold instead of the Glenn Close.
They should just all wear gold so that there's no jinx.
Yes,
one of them
exactly. But yeah, it's really funny how quickly this solidified for Yoon in supporting actress, not getting nominated at the Golden Globes. Not that Minari did very well there anyway, but she lost to Maria Bakalova at the Critics' Choice. I thought that might be solidifying something for Maria, but especially that SAG win for Yoon, I think was huge. Being able to win over such what I thought would be a populist favorite like Maria in Borat. It seemed like SAG friendly for her. Same thing with Glenn Close. Hillbilly Elegy not only got her, but Amy Adams in as well. So for Yoon to win over both of them was huge. I think everyone feels really happy to vote for her, probably including Glenn Close, as was said earlier. So yeah, plus it's just a really great place to reward Minari after probably not getting anything else. So I think the voters will probably feel good with that. And with supporting actor, I mean, the Lakeith Stanfield rando nom here is sort of throwing me off because I just don't know what to do with that information. I don't know if there's some hidden pocket of support that we didn't pick up on beforehand that could complicate things. But I think it's got to be Daniel. Probably first of multiple Oscars for Daniel.
That's just what an undeniable performance.
Yeah.
And thinking about Judas and the Black Messiah brings me to cinematography, because I really believe that Sean Bobbitt's cinematography of that film was so stunning, and I was hoping it would be nominated. And when it did get nominated, I thought, okay, well, that could be a real chance to upset here. But obviously, Joshua James Richards' not performance, his work on Nomadland has been so rewarded, apart from the ASC, which is a very insular boys club. So he looks like he's winning cinematography, although if you had asked me a few months ago, I would have said Eric Messerschmidt, and his work on Mank would have been the favorite. So what do you guys think? I know Nomadland is the consensus choice in cinematography, but I don't think this category is that locked up yet. Daniel, what do you think?
I think it's probably just a two-way race. Mank has the most cinematography in the sense that it's the showiest, most kind of obvious achievement, the black and white, the style, stylizing it like a 1930s, 1940s film. But we've seen voters kind of rejecting that for most of the season, with going with Nomadland instead. So I'm going with that because the American Society of Cinematographers often goes their own way and doesn't really go with what the rest of the industry is going for. So yeah, I think it's Nomadland. And also, strangely, even though black and white photography stands out so much in this day when everything is in color, like they rarely win cinematography. Roma is the only one since Schindler's List. No The White Ribbon, no Good Night and Good Luck, no Nebraska, no Man Who Wasn't There. Like they all lose. And so I think we're going to see that probably continue again with Nomadland winning.
What about you, Kevin?
Yeah, I think what Joshua James Richards was able to capture with the magic hour and all the natural beauty of the world, I think that's all very friendly for cinematography there, and just all those great close-ups of Francis. I think even if Nomadland wasn't the front runner in Best Picture, it would probably still be winning this. But, I do think Mank could still take it just because you can point to it and say, hey, look, it's the cinematography, black and white, and it's noticeable, emulating the old style of Hollywood filmmaking. But Mank isn't winning awards outside of production design, like, at all through this entire season. So outside of that ASC win, of course, but I don't see it repeating.
It appears to be that way. There's that shot of Frances McDormand on the beach smiling and looking back that they use for posters and for some of the key art. That's what I think about when I think about his work on Nomadland. It's so beautiful to look at. You could turn the sound off and just watch it as a work of art. So I'm sure he's going to win, although if Sean Bobbitt wins for Judas, I'd be happy. Denton, are you on the same page?
Yeah, I mean, I think Nomadland is going to win it. One of the reasons I think it has to win it in terms of my own predictions is I think it's really the only other major category I have it winning other than director and picture. I don't have it winning screenplay. I don't have it winning an acting award. So, this is another place that they can really reward what I think is the presumable best picture. I am worried about Mank and even Judas and the Black Messiah. Mank has 10 nominations, and I think the odds have it winning 1. So this is definitely one where Mank could spoil. And Judas and the Black Messiah, I think, is also underrated in our rankings, especially in Best Picture. We've seen it consistently in those secret ballots that, Chris talked with people about. It's in the top 3. I think Judas and the Black Messiah could end up, having a couple shocking upsets if there were to be any.
Yeah. Okay. The sound category is another one that I don't think is a cakewalk for Sound of Metal. And I know that sounds crazy and I hate it when people say, oh, but the word sound is in the title. That's dumb. A lot of the movie is about sound, and its use of sound is so different and original and kind of something that we haven't really seen a lot of before, and so integral to the narrative of the story, which is why I think Sound of Metal is likely to win here. So we don't have to spend too much time on this one, to be honest, but do any of you think that there is another film that may be a bit of a worry for Sound of Metal?
Not really. I think I look at that list and I don't see an alternative is the thing, like, or at least one that I've seen win in anywhere. I agree. The Sound of Metal has sound of the title is a bit of a silly justification. It is really more that the movie is about sound design, like just the way it is incorporated into the film is so significant. I think the sound achievement in Soul would maybe be your next likeliest choice, but it's weirdly like animation has only one animated film has ever won an award that was an animated feature or music, and that was The Incredibles winning for sound editing, and that was 16 years ago. But Soul hasn't really won for its sound this season, so I don't see it being a big challenger. I think Sound of Metal is on the Daniel Kaluuya level of being pretty close to a lock.
Yeah, and in fact, if there were still two sound categories, I would have expected it to win both. Denton and Kevin, I don't necessarily think we have to talk much about that, but I will ask you this because we can kind of connect it with the editing category, the film editing category. Daniel Keneally said something really interesting. Daniel, you're saying a lot of really interesting things in the comments. I'm very appreciative. The bigger question is the editing and sound nexus. Let's see if we can kind of come up with some argument there that they sometimes go together. I can think of two off the top of my head that have gone together in recent years since 1999. Kevin, what do you think? I think Sound of Metal is likely winning this one as well.
Yeah, that is what I have. I mean, actually looking at it, I'm pretty sure I might have to double check, but it's matched at least one sound category with editing since 2013 for Gravity. And it's just the problem is, of course, now we have the combined sounds that makes it less likely to match up. But that is what I'm hesitantly going out on a limb and saying that Sound of Metal can win this, even though, as many people have pointed out, this is not like Whiplash, even though it has the drummer comparisons to it. This is not a heavily, like, tightly edited film with exciting musical sequences. Like, it only happens at the very beginning of the film. The rest of the film is very quietly paced and subtle. But I do think the way that sound and the film editors, they all worked so closely together to create the experience of hearing loss and deafness for an audience that is maybe primarily hearing. I think that is just inherently quite showy. And I think in a category where we don't have a heavy craft type of film in it, I think that makes the most sense as like the showiest. That's what I feel.
Yeah. Denton, what about you?
I'm actually going with the Trial of the Chicago 7 in editing. When I watched The Sound of Metal, I walked away with, being moved by the film and the performances. And I thought it was great. But when I walked away from the Trial of the Chicago 7, the first thing I thought of was, oh, it's gonna win editing. I mean, it's the flashier editing. For me, it was the less. I mean, I wasn't emotionally connected to that movie as much as I was Sound of Metal. But to me, it's just the obvious editing. I mean, it's just boom, 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 boom. Archival footage, courtroom scenes. It's back and forth very fast. And when I just think of traditional editing and how the Academy goes, that's just where I see them going this year.
That is precisely why I think editing is an issue here, because Trial is really pacey. A lot of it has to do with Aaron Sorkin's dialogue, but a lot of it has to do with Alan Baumgarten's editing. And so I think we just need to be mindful of that. I'm just looking at our list, and I think we've covered our categories, which is great, because I really want to actually hear from you guys, if you don't mind, very briefly about original song, because it's something that I just can't get out of my head. I've been really invested in that category over the last few days.
I'd like to add like one more thing about like editing, just because like we were talking about there's usually a matchup. I actually wrote an article like a few weeks ago about how actually if you're nominated for no best editing winner since The Departed has lacked a sound nomination at least. Which is again weird because of the consolidation of best sound now, and it's possible Trial of Chicago 7 would have snuck into one of those sound slots with 2 categories, maybe mixing, maybe editing. But that's the reason I'm going with Sound of Metal there, even though Trial of Chicago 7 is the more obvious choice.
Yeah. So, Kevin, what do you think's going to win best song and why?
I think maybe this is the one category where I'm letting Hope Dicting take control of me. I feel like I'm allowed at least one. And that's why I'm predicting Husavik. Not only because I just love it, but also because it is integral to the actual film itself. It's in the climax. And it's the only thing, if you look on the Academy screening room, from what I understand, you can actually see the songs in the context of the film. The rest of the songs are end credits. So I don't know if there will be Academy members who feel like they don't want to reward an end credit song because it doesn't have as much to do with the film itself. But I think in a very split year where there's no super clear front runner, that little bit of passion and how much campaigning that song has gotten over the past few months will slightly push it over the edge of some of the more traditional winners.
Okay, while I've got you, Kevin, actress, where are you headed on that one? Because as you know, we're all freaking out over that one.
Yeah, so am I. I am on Viola Davis right now. I feel like she's kind of a safe bet, oddly enough. That's what's happened, is because she won the SAG Award. Obviously, we know SAG Awards love Viola Davis. She hasn't lost an individual SAG Award since Doubt. So there is that to consider. But I just think the level of respect she has within the industry, so many people love her. And it's a transformative role, and she's playing a real person. Even if she doesn't have the level of screen time as the others, I think that could give her the slight edge, that relationship she might have with other people in the industry. But
Okay.
I mean, I could see it plausible for even Vanessa Kirby. I think none of them would shock me if her name was read or if it was a tie.
So in this foursome, we have Carey Mulligan and Andra Day and Viola Davis. What about you, Daniel?
I'm going Carey. I've had her for. I switched to her as soon as Promising Young Woman got those Golden Globe nominations for like picture and director, and she didn't win the Golden Globe, but she lost it to Andra Day, who hasn't gotten it anywhere else. Then Viola Davis won SAG, but we know how much the SAG Awards love Viola Davis. Carey Mulligan probably would have won BAFTA under the previous rules. Carey Mulligan won Critics' Choice, even though Critics' Choice liked Ma Rainey a lot better than the Oscars did. So, in such a weird, like, again, I'm not counting anyone out except I'm sorry, Vanessa Kirby. I've been sticking with Carey Mulligan because she just seems to have the least downsides in terms of the season thus far.
So while I've got you guys, Denton, I was wondering if I don't know if you heard what we were saying earlier, but adapted screenplay and original screenplay are actually slightly open here. What are you going for both, and why? Very briefly.
I'm going with The Father. And I don't know if this is breaking news, but that is now, I believe, the front runner on Gold Derby.
We've had like thousands of users add predictions since Friday, and The Father is one of the beneficiaries.
Yeah, so I mean, I went with that just because it's just so much more dialogue, and I think there's a narrative that Nomadland is a lot of ad-libbing. It's a lot of non-actors, and people are a little bit confused about how much was actually written. But I think there's also a lot of people that really think the writing gave that film structure. So I don't know, but I'm going with The Father. And original screenplay. I can't even remember my categories anymore.
That's okay. Promising Young Woman
Promising Young Woman is original screenplay just because it's the most original, but I could see an upset for trial there if there is a trial wave, and if they win Best Picture, I could see them winning editing and screenplay. But I think Promising Young Woman is the original story that sticks out in your mind.
Okay. I was also thinking Sound of Metal has a chance with Abraham and Darius Marder, along with Derek Cianfrance, and Judas and the Black Messiah, Minari as well. Kevin, you get our last say here because we're running out of time, unfortunately. What do you think about the two screenplays in like 20 seconds?
I think Promising Young Woman lines up so much with movies like Get Out and Her and Parasite that win this category more often than not than Trial does, which is more traditional. And for adapted, I've been sticking with Nomadland just as the front runner status type of thing, but yeah, I'm really tempted to switch to The Father over the last few weeks.
Okay,
got like 10 minutes.
Yeah,
guys, I have to let you guys go now, but it's been so great having you on here. Thanks so much for dialing in. We've got two of you on the East Coast and Denton in Minneapolis, I think, still. Wow. So great. Thank you, guys. Have a great Oscars night. Hopefully we'll see you on the post show, and if not, we'll see you during Emmy season. I'm going to bring in our last group of people that I'm just thrilled to have on here. I'll just wait for you to join us all. In the meantime, you can just get to listen to me speak, which is probably quite upsetting and depressing. So we have Tony Ruiz, just like one of my besties. We've got my fourth, maybe third favorite Canadian, Riley Chow. You've been doing such a great job behind the scenes. Thanks, mate, so much. And we have Nick Ruhrkraut, who is one of our more relatively new members of our ensemble. Welcome, Nick. It's so great to have you on.
Thanks,
guys,
yeah.
This is going to be a really exciting night. I'm so looking forward to it. I really am. Like, I know a lot of people are sick of it, and, the pandemic's made us all really whiny and depressed, but we've got something really great to look forward to. We've got a great show. I really believe that Steven Soderbergh and his team are going to bring us something really different and inspirational and aspirational. So we're going to try to be positive about the night. But let's talk about some of these categories. I know that you're all generally predicting Nomadland. That's where we all seem to be. It just seems like the safe choice. But if we had to pick something that was going to upset it, Nick, what would you say would be the film to do it?
I would pick, so I've been listening to the conversation so far, I would pick Minari. And I think if we weren't considering Nomadland, if we're only considering the other 7, they're all so close. And I think that's why there's such a difference between Nomadland and anything else. I would say Minari. I think Promising Young Woman is really close too, just because of the support it's had online and with fans, with viewers, audiences all around the world. But I think Minari has the heart, and I think it could take it there. It's sad that it didn't get all of the nominations through different ceremonies that it could have, but I would love to see it win tonight. I don't think it's going to happen, but I would really love to see that end the night.
Okay, and I forgot to mention that your middle name is Wonder 100%, so I just wanted to put that out there. Anthony, talk to me, man. Like, what's going to happen in picture? Because what if Nomadland doesn't do? What if all the stake eaters say, "Oh, that movie had nothing happened in that movie," and it ends, and it's like, "Nah." What if that happens? What's going to win?
I think if it's the stake eaters making the choice, I think it would be Trial. But I think people are overthinking this. I'm actually not concerned that Nomadland is a weak front runner, because I don't think it is a weak front runner. Because every time we've had a film bulldoze its way through the season and then get upset at the Oscars, there's always been one movie that kind of was the passion pick. And this year, I don't think that there is the passion pick, the alternative. Trial has its support. Minari has its support. Sound of Metal has its support. The Father has its support. There's not that one. If there were just one passion pick that could offset Nomadland, I think there'd be a greater chance of there being an upset. But I just don't see the single film that could gather that kind of momentum.
Yeah, I think you're right, and Tony, I know that you're a real big fan of Chloe Zhao. I mean, The Rider was your favorite film, or one of, a few years ago. So, if for nothing else, I know that you're probably really hoping that Nomadland will pull this out. I always feel so nervous when we're all so confident about something and then it all goes awry. La La Land is a great example of that. Riley, what about you? Is anything poised to upset Nomadland in the top race?
Are we still talking about this? It's almost
We are.
May.
I don't care.
We'll get a time to talk about picture, and God damn it, we are going to do it.
I mean, I guess it could be Trial. It won 5 guilds, and Nomadland won only 2, which is quite paltry for a film that's supposedly sweeping the season. It only won PGA and DGA, which are the big ones, but we've seen films win those 2 and not win the Oscar. And I guess that's enough for that category.
Okay. Thank you, Riley. I think the quote of the night will be, I guess Trial could win it. Let's talk about director. I think director is pretty clear. Again, I don't like saying that because you never know, but it's a great opportunity with 2 women nominated in Best Directing. Not that that really matters, but it kind of does, to have Emerald Fennell and Chloe Zhao in the category. Chloe Zhao is also a woman of Asian descent, and frankly, the best thing about Nomadland, in my opinion, is the directing. She was able to pull together this gorgeous contemplative film, so perfect for 2020, with a bunch of people who are not trained actors, and made it so organic and so moving and so beautiful. She is winning Best Director, and I know you all agree. I just want to see you nodding to make sure that you agree. Does anyone have anything to add in director before we move on?
Swanky is Chloe Zhao's +1 tonight, and it's very sad you're missing the pre-show. It's really, really good.
Yeah, I'm hoping that I can find a stream of it somewhere later.
Yeah,
I really want to see it. I want to see Husavik performed in Iceland and all.
It was incredible.
Oh, what a shame they're not airing it here in
It
Australia.
was cold. It looked cold.
Yeah, it's probably cold. Yeah. So look, Swanky, by the way, Australian Academy Award nominee for Nomadland. That performance, she's not even an actor, and amazing. So I'm hoping that I'll get to see her at some point on the show. So guys, let's move on, because I think international feature is really interesting. Everybody seems to have another round predicted. The Thomas Vinterberg nomination in Best Director is very telling that it has some support in other branches. Well, at least we know in the director's branch. But for the Academy at large, I think it's a different story. And you guys know very well that in international feature, sometimes the front runner doesn't win. Okay, so that does happen. And I know one of you, at least, because I've heard you tell me about this, will probably bring this up. So I'll just hold that for a second. Tony, what do you think here? Because another round is a crowd pleaser, but by God, this category is so strong.
It's such an amazing category. If I were voting, and this comes as no surprise to I think anybody here, but if I were voting, it'd be Quo Vadis Aida. But I think collective getting the doc nod and international feature nod is we're starting to see that happen more and more. Granted, 2 things does not necessarily a trend make, but it is something. But I think just you always have to kind of take things down a couple notches when it comes to what is the Academy at large going to vote for. The fact that Thomas Vinterberg got into director, there's a lot of voters who probably haven't seen all of these films. Shame on you. And another round is among this batch might be maybe one of the more uplifting films. Granted, it's a film about alcoholism, but it's certainly that Mads Mikkelsen dance is probably one of the most joyous moments in cinema. So I think just the Vinterberg nomination and director gives this the edge. So I don't see any reason to predict against it.
Okay, what about you, Nick?
I agree, and I would actually, if I were voting, I would also pick Quo Vadis Aida, which is just an incredible film.
You
Going
have
along with the
exceptional taste.
this was an amazing category. I think with the BAFTA, both Quo and Another Round were nominated in multiple categories, but Another Round ended up taking the non-English language prize, while also being nominated for director, actor, and screenplay. So I think Vinterberg's name and also Mads Mikkelsen, who the Academy are aware of, and they know them. So I think that's definitely also helping them tonight, and why I'm also predicting Another Round.
Okay. By the way, everybody, I know Miguel Moreira just asked how you can watch the Oscars. If you go onto Gold Derby, one of the articles written by Chris Rosen gives you a whole bunch of ways in which you can watch the Oscars if you don't have a TV or you don't have cable. So just go and check that out. And by the way, we've got about 3 or 4 minutes until the prediction center closes. I urge you all to go in there and make sure that you fix what you need to fix, because then it's all over for young and old. Riley, what do you think about international feature? Because it admittedly is a really, really inspiring and strong category.
If we were under the old system, I'd be predicting Quo Vadis Aida, and since we're not, I'm going with Another Round, since I don't think the Academy has seen the other films.
It's pretty simple, isn't it? I think that's probably where it's headed. And quite frankly, Another Round, that's in my top 10 films of the year. I just loved that movie. Loved the ending. Quo Vadis Aida, also in my top 10. Wonderful, wonderful movie as well. And I'm just saying this because this is what normal people who aren't in the industry are thinking, and from spoken to a whole bunch. Collective was so well done. The Man Who Sold His Skin was a real eye-opener and surprising to many people. I only saw it because I interviewed the director, and when I saw it, I thought, this is going to get nominated. This is brilliant. And then, of course, Better Days, which I caught up with towards the end, another strong contender. So many great films missed out here as well. It's a really strong year for international features, and whoever wins this tonight should be feeling really proud that you were able to do this in such a strong year. Let's move on, because to me, makeup and hairstyling is actually really open. This is my only no guts, no glory, because I'm so sick and tired of just seeing the same shit that everyone's predicting across the board. I'm going with Pinocchio because I'm an idiot, but I just honestly believe if anyone's paying attention who's voting, and probably many people aren't.
Okay, did I catch the swear word? Or was I off?
Oops, sorry. I was just thinking Pinocchio has the best work by far. It's so amazing, even though the film didn't do quite well critically. Everyone seems to be predicting Ma Rainey, and I don't quite know why. I'd love to hear from you guys as to why that is. Tony, what's your view in makeup and hairstyling?
Ma Rainey is what you're insane going for Pinocchio, because I have to wonder if the Academy at large even realizes that there is a Pinocchio movie. I'm also wondering if some of them are even looking and going, wait, that awful Roberto Benigni movie from 15 years ago. I think this is an easy one. Ma Rainey kind of has this in the bag. But it's not the most, shall we say, exciting group of nominees. I have to admit that even when Pinocchio was nominated, I was shocked by it because I didn't know there was a new film version of Pinocchio. So I think we just go with the front runner in this case.
Okay. I even think that Hillbilly Elegy has a chance because the work they did on Glenn Close is really transformational, and the Academy at large tend to go for transformational work. What about you, Nick? Where are you on the makeup and hairstyling category?
I'm also with Ma Rainey's. I think it's just been doing well this whole season, and I would love to see Pinocchio win tonight. Actually, I think the work there is beyond any of these others in this category. And Marc Coulier, who did the makeup for Pinocchio, won for the Iron Lady and the Grand Budapest Hotel. So he's 2 for 2 for his nomination. So this could be 3 for 3. And I would love to see this upset here, but I am going with Ma Rainey. It's been doing well. And I think both of the makeup and hairstyling artists for the film, Mia Neal and Jamaica Wilson, are the first 2 Black women to be nominated here. So I think if they won there, this would also be very exciting.
That's a really good point. I wonder if they're going to get extra credit for the really fantastic hair work that was done in Ma Rainey. I see. The more I hear what you're all saying, the more I'm kind of understand why Ma Rainey is such a front runner.
And the fact that Ma Rainey won at BAFTA was really telling. It's not it's not the film that you would think BAFTA would go for. So the fact that they did, and it's done really well at the makeup guilds, and so it just seems to be an easy choice.
Do you agree, Riley?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there, why it's the front runner, but it is. So I've moved on and just accepted it. Pinocchio, I don't think anybody has seen. I saw it, and now I regret it. There's another one coming out next year as well, so people could be confusing this Pinocchio with that one.
There are 2 more coming out.
Oh, 2. Great. Yeah,
we have a Disney one and a Guillermo del Toro version, so it's like never-ending remakes. And
it's just a story that's dying to be told.
Yeah. I know. I can't wait. Let's talk about costume and production design. A few months ago, I would have thought Emma had costume design in the bag. And I just think because it's the most costumes, it's a period piece and they're speaking in British accents. So that's really the end of it. In costume design, because a lot of the Academy at large don't know what the hell they're voting for and just go for the big frilly dresses. That is actually a thing. And most of us Oscar watchers know this. But it seems that Ma Rainey has really picked up a lot of steam here. The costumes in that movie are really quite wonderful. But this is a really strong category. So there's a lot of potential for upsets in these 2 categories. In production design, Mank has done very well. I mean, that is undeniably some of the best production design that we've seen in some time. But I just don't know whether Mank's going to even win anything. And frankly, when I saw The Father nominated, I was hoping it would happen. I was hoping that that branch would recognize that work, and they did. Contemporary work, it's really hard to get a leg up in these 2 categories for contemporary work, and here we are. And so I just think, I'm concerned that these categories are not as locked in as most of us believe. Like, honestly, guys, we're not going to see everything that we think win. But let's go to Nick.
Well, if you're Nick, you might.
If you're Nick,
yeah.
Then, but
the pressure is unreal.
Is this going to be like a one-off 24 out of 24 blaze of glory type situation, or are you just going to school all of us and just get a high score again? So you tell us what's winning in these 2 categories.
I think with costume, this was also where the BAFTA win was really telling for me that Ma Rainey has this. I really expected Emma to do well, and it didn't. So this is an easy one. I'm excited for Anne Roth, who's 89, still working and still doing this, which is amazing. And then with production design, I was really happy to see The Father get a nomination as well. But here, I'm happy that Mank likely won't be the Irishman this year, and it has been the front runner. So I guess if we're awarding Mank anywhere, this is where to do it, because I think it looks stunning.
Okay, so that seems like you're going for the consensus choices there. So that's the safe bet that we should all be. Most of us are predicting.
Yeah,
those.
just don't blame me in your betting, I guess, if it comes down to it.
You're the new guy. We will blame you for everything.
We will totally blame you. Okay, I've already written the really abusive email that I'll press send on later. But, Tony, what about you?
Yeah, I'm going the same way. I'm going Ma Rainey in costumes. I'm going Mank in production design. As much as I would love The Father to win production design, never underestimate the Academy's willingness to see itself and go, ooh, look at how wonderful we look. And, movie studios, period sets, Citizen Kane, hello. Might as well have just engraved it when the movie came out. And Ma Rainey's, again, if you just look at the guilds, it won BAFTA, it won the Costume Designers Guild. And, Anne Roth is a legend, so I see no reason to bet against that.
Yeah. I think Mulan won also at the Costume Designers Guild. Not that that necessarily matters too much. I think Bina Daigler's work in that film is pretty stunning, but I agree. I think Ma Rainey seems to be the one that most people are gravitating towards. Riley, is this another two categories that you think are really just no big deal?
Well, I think what Nick did so right last year, and I'm going to tie this in, is he predicted only The Night Before. Is that correct?
I think I changed Bong Joon-ho The Night Before.
Okay.
I had most of them like locked down. Film editing, sound, all that was done. I think I looked over everything again and was like, let's change this. I don't feel right about 1917.
Okay. Well, like the Oscar voters, they're not updating their ballots like we are, constantly. They're arriving at the very end of the season, and then they're taking a look at their ballot and they're voting immediately. So I think that it's good to be as reductive as possible in some of these categories, like production design. They'll see Mank on the ballot and they're like, oh, they recreated old Hollywood. That was production design. Or Sound of Metal. That had plenty of sounds in it. Done. And then you just move on. Costumes, I think, is one of the trickier categories. I think it's ripe for an upset. Ma Rainey has been steamrolling through the season. Not really sure why. And that's part of why I'm so confident in Ma Rainey in makeup, because I don't know if it's going to win all these awards, but it's going to win at least some of them. And I figured that costumes is more on the chopping block than makeup for it. Emma did not win at BAFTA, but for some reason BAFTA actually didn't really like Emma. They didn't really put it on a lot of their long lists. It wasn't nominated for British film, and it doesn't have that makeup nomination that it has at the Oscars. So sometimes we see this disconnect where the Americans like a British film more than the Brits do, or vice versa. So that could be a case here. Emma also just has the showiest costumes, and if they're not thinking about the whole season, and it's just you get to your ballot and it's like, what had the showiest costumes? I think that's Emma. Or Mulan also has very showy costumes, and it didn't lose to Ma Rainey at BAFTA because it wasn't even nominated. And we saw the same thing happen with another Disney movie a couple of years ago, Black Panther.
Yeah. Okay, look, let's hear from you guys on actress. We've got 4 minutes because we're going to finish up 5 minutes too, so we can all go to the bathroom before the Oscars begin. Nick, what are you predicting? What are you predicting for Best Actress and why? Nick.
I'm going. So Joyce and I think Joyce actually changed her thing just like an hour ago, but I'm going with Andra Day. It's
good.
For me.
You're not going to get a perfect score.
This is just causing me so much anxiety. I was like, I'm not going to change it 17 times in the past week. So I chose her. It's what the Academy has gone for the past few years with Rami Malek and Renee Zellweger. So I think it lines up there. I think it's the most showy performance. She's incredible in this movie. That's not so. And she turns it out. She's another singer. We also have Leslie Odom Jr. nominated and for song, and she didn't get in for song at all, but you just got to pick one. I think my second choice would be Carrie, but it's just so close. We'll see what happens. We have like 2+ hours to find out.
Yeah, absolutely. Tony, what about you?
I'm staying with Viola. I can't go with Carrie because all she's won is Critics' Choice, and I think there's a narrative for Viola. There's been really this building narrative about we haven't had a woman of color really win actress since Halle Berry, and you've got now 2 opportunities with Andra Day and Viola Davis. If it's a choice between those 2, they're going to go for Viola. They like her more. She's seen as more respected. She's the perfect person, being the African American actress with the most nominations, with the most Oscar nominations. She's the perfect person to do it in a film that they like better. I could see a case for Andra if the film had gotten just at least one more nomination. But with her only winning the Globe and missing out at SAG, I'm just going to stick with Viola, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I think Frances could win. I think Carrie could win. I think Andra could win. But I'm just going to stick to my guns and stick with Viola.
Okay, and finally, Riley, who are you picking for actress and why?
I've got Andra largely because of performance, which is a strange thing because we don't like to think the Oscars are voting with such pure intentions. But it is the show's performance. I think there's a perception online that Carey Mulligan is the front runner, but I think that is limited to online discussion. I don't think that she's front runner like Chadwick Boseman is in Best Actor, where if you ask somebody who's not so familiar with the Oscars, they'll consider an upset if he loses. I think Viola Davis is not going to win because she has already won an Oscar and we know what she's capable of. The same way that Frances McDormand has been getting beaten left and right this season, because we know that she has it in her. There's nothing, it's not as exciting a choice as going with Andra Day here. I think for a film called Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, I was really expecting to see more of Ma Rainey as Black Bottom, and there was not very much of that.
Yes, the Black Bottom was absent for some of the film. I hear you. Guys, it's been such a pleasure having you on. Thanks so much for your insights. We're going to finish up now so that we can all have a pee-pee break before the Oscars. Pee-pee break. And thanks again, everybody. Don't forget to stick with Gold Derby, because right after the Oscars, we have a post show hosted by my compatriot and colleague, Matt Noble. And then after the Oscars, we're diving into Emmy season headfirst. So just, it just never ends. Okay. Thanks, guys. Enjoy Oscar night.